let's be real, like time is money and time is time.
Nice. Well said. Very, very profound. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Biz Dev Podcast, the podcast about developing your business. I'm David Baxter, your host. I'm joined, per usual, by Gary Voigt. Hello, Gary. How are you?
Hey, what's going on?
More importantly, I'm joined by Christina Marie Noel, who is the founder of Better Made Easy. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to our little bitty show. Now, I should say, I know Christina. We run into each other pretty regularly all over the area. So this is a little different than a lot of our episodes where I don't know the person, but I do know Christina. We talk pretty regularly. So I am excited to talk to you because you're fun to talk to. Let's start off easy. I'm going to give you a softball. Tell me about Better Made Easy.
Okay. So Better Made Easy, we're a sustainability focused gifting company, really gifting startup. And we're on a mission to make gifting better easy. It's truly in the name. Life is hard. Gifting thoughtfully is really hard. And it's a pain point I've experienced. It's a pain point after 6+ years of building a consultancy I've seen in the marketplace. I think that gifting is one of the most underutilized marketing channels and business development channels. And then it's also fun. Who doesn't want to get a great gift that's really thoughtful, that feels human and caring? And also save time doing it because let's be real, time is money and time is time.
Nice said. Very profound. So tell me go a little deeper. What does gifting mean? Am I buying gifts for my kids? I don't think so. This is corporate gifting. Is that right?
Yeah. So we do have an online store, but yes, our first and best customers are corporate. We're really finding that's the best way to our mission at the end of the day is to help drive sustainable growth for mission driven organizations. And the best way we can help brands that are growing or brands that might be lesser known to grow is to really be that connector between the brands and corporate.
So Big Pixel uses a thing called Thanks. Have you heard of Thanks?
Ooh, I haven't heard of that one yet.
THNKS. So take all the vowels out.
Okay.
And that's how we gift, if that's the right word, internally. So if someone is birthday, I'll send them cookies, or Gary, I've probably given him a used towel or something.
Wait, no, hold on. Just to set the record straight, you're actually a very good gift giver.
But I usually, no, that's fair. I bought Gary some crazy things over the years when he was a contractor, especially because I couldn't give him bonuses like normally because he was just a contractor at the time. And so I've given him some crazy gifts. Anyway, but we use Thanks, which is a great thing, but it's meant internal. It's meant to give, right. You could use it externally, but that's not really its shtick. Or where do you guys land? What kind of gifts?
Yes, we definitely think that the holiday season, that's when we launched in the last year. And we definitely expect that to be our busiest time of the year. That being said, we are seeing the need for internal giftings. We're definitely working to be that one-stop shop for corporate gifting needs, really with the goal though of becoming a brand partner. So when we're working with clients, we're working to figure out if they want branded gifts that really reflect their values, we can make that happen and we can be that resource year after year.
If you can crack the code of creating a swag bag of 5 to 6 promo items that are actually unique and cool without having to purchase 1,000 of them to get the price down, then yeah, you'll be a bazillionaire.
I have been amazed. So I go to chamber events pretty regularly and they're always sponsored by a bank of some sort. That's almost always who's doing it. And so I'll be at this big conference room, right? And there's probably 20 tables and each table might have 8 or 10 people, right? And each one of those spots has little notebooks and pens and just swag. And I'm looking around going, that's $1,000-ish just sitting on there. And they're just thrown. No one ever takes them. They're just there. And I'm, man, because swag is something internally when people are hey, you want to, there's 14 of us, right? Not a ton. And so I'm I want to buy some swag. And they're oh, you need to buy an order of 400. I'm no, I have 14 people. For small companies, this is really hard, right? Gifting just in general is really hard. Are you focused on companies like mine or do I need to have 500 people for you to care?
Oh no, we definitely, at least for now, we care about every size company. But you're hitting on an interesting conversation because this is one of the things that we're trying to sort through, even as we build our service, is the idea of branded merch versus gifting and where they align and where they differ. Actually, one of my dearest and closest mentors who I look up to so much runs Brand Fuel, and they're an amazing branded merch company. They do such cool, creative, mission-driven swag, or they really like the word branded merch. And merch has its place for sure. And also sometimes it doesn't have its place, if that makes sense. So like employee onboarding, yes, get them some branded merch. Let them be empowered to represent your company. Holiday gifting, depending upon what you're sending. Absolutely. How, depending upon what the purpose is, if someone had a new baby, yeah, maybe I want a onesie with the logo on it. What about everything else? What are we
Branded
packaging?
bottles.
And what we're finding is there's so many companies. And the funny thing is it's often high up women, especially in like high growth startups that are going out and like buying a bunch of stuff for 10 thoughtful gifts to put with the onesie. I'm like,
Nice.
yeah, let us do that. Send us your merch. If you need advice on great merch partners, we'll help you. Will we eventually sell merch? Maybe, but I care most about solving really personalized gifting and then branding the experience, right? Let's make
Okay.
sure we have a branded card. Let's make sure we have branded tape around the gift box. But does everything in it need your brand?
So
Maybe not.
last Christmas, for some reason, so I buy everybody a gift, but some of my employees will give me a gift, which is very sweet. And for some reason, unless they all talked and I don't know about it, for some reason last year, everyone decided I needed everything to say Big Pixel on it. And so because I had just bought it, did I just buy the sweatshirts? No, that was t-shirts only. Yeah, because that was this year.
Yeah, I think it was
So-
just coming off the second round of t-shirts.
So I gave out t-shirts to everybody who's working here. And that's like the quintessential branded thing. So I have a picture of me. This is no joke. I'm wearing a Big Pixel t-shirt. I have a Yeti water bottle, Big Pixel. I have a dog bowl from Yeti, Big Pixel. There was something else too. I had I think I did have the sweater because I had two things. I have an Ember mug that I actually did for the present, branded, which
I get
those
that.
are the
That's
best.
awesome.
Yeah, that one was
Yeah,
cool.
they're great.
Here's a funny story on that. I went to go to Ember directly and I said, I need Ember mugs. And they're like, you need to buy at least 25. I'm like, no. So I went to another company who said you can buy as few as, I think, 5 up to a couple hundred. And it was
Nice.
cheaper than Ember, but it was engraved. Like, I didn't understand how any of this worked. It was cheaper than Ember doing it themselves, and I didn't have to buy the big. So I was like, someone's really off here. Anyway, so it was just nuts how much branded stuff, because does everything need to be branded? No, but I like the idea of branding the experience. I think that's very cool. But
yes.
I do.
And handwritten notes.
Ooh.
Whatever possible. Handwritten notes.
Do you do actually, are someone writing it, or are you doing there's a cool thing nowadays that you can upload like your picture,
I was just going to say, David's got a branded handwritten business card.
That is true. I actually paid a company to do my signature, and everyone makes fun of me, but I have the coolest signature on the planet. Every time I sign a PDF or something, it is so awesome.
Yeah, that's because you had to go through 6 rounds of revisions.
Oh, what was really cool, man, that's so bad, but what is really cool is they said, give me your signature. So I drew my actual signature. It was chicken scratch. But they took my real signature, and they just made it like someone like Gary actually did it. So it's legible, but it still looks like mine. It's so cool. I'm sorry. I know it's vain as all get out, but I do love my little fake signature. So I want to change gears pretty dramatically, because I think your story is very interesting, because not only do you run Better Made Easy, but you have your own consulting group, which is marketing focused, correct?
Correct.
And that is the heartbeat, i.e. money, of that's allowing Better Made Easy to function, right? That's safe to say?
For now.
So yeah, sure. So I am sure the reason I want to zero in on that is because I think there's a lot of people who have ideas like that. Because was it last week that I brought up Alex Hermosi and he said not to do this? I think that was just last week. I'm asking Gary. He's looking at me funny. Maybe I'm crazy. Was that last week? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it was last week.
So I'm going to bring it up again because it's apropos again. He says, if you own a gizmo, such as your consultancy, and you want to start something new, the only way to make this something new work is to completely kill the consultancy and go whole hog into the thing. And the guy last week disagreed with that. And clearly you do too. So it's interesting. What are your thoughts on that? Like, how does that work? Because you got to support yourself, right? So that's your consultancy.
Correct.
And then Better Made Easy is like, how does that work in a practical sense? Like, how could you, even if you thought Alex was right, how does that even work?
Yeah, 100%. If I was going to go all in, and I think it depends on what you're working on. So I don't think there's one right answer. I think it all depends. And so I spent the last 6 years working often with like high growth companies on go to market strategy. So I've actually studied this. Like I spent 6 years helping other companies determine how they wanted to go to market and then coming up with their strategy, figuring out their marketing budget and allocate it, and then serving as a fractional leader as long as it made sense until we could hire someone else full time, or at least they could steer the ship without me, it was so much fun. I feel like it was 6 years of like market research, meaningful work, and it depends, right? So I'm looking at really successful startups, Amazon. It was winner takes all. So if I was trying to literally start Amazon back when Amazon was started and I wanted to dominate the whole market, take it over, like timing was everything. That's why Amazon was so aggressive and had the strategy that they had. But today I'm working to build a gifting company and it's a massive market. The merch industry is massive. Like I am coming after something that's huge. So even if we just carve a niche in this massive market, there's some space, I think, to be one of many players. And I also think that it's one of the massive markets that like the merch companies are killing it, but actually no one's solving quite the problem that we're setting out to solve, which is how do you give thoughtfully in new ways every year. And there's even different business models we're playing with and actually thoughtfully branding that versus first worried about putting brands on things, truly like branding the products. Cause that's been the traditional corporate gifting way. It's either branded merch or Harry and David.
Man, I've done that. I've
And
fallen right into that trap. Harry and David's my buddy.
and sure, there's flowers. I've heard one company that's okay. Every time something happens with our employee, we give them flowers. We would love to send thoughtful local gifts. That feels a lot better. And maybe if you can even toss in one thing that's unique to them. So if they have a dog, send them really thoughtful dog treats made by people with disabilities or cute dog socks. So you show them that you've seen them and that you've heard them and you know them. That like that those little things, like it's really like the made easy is what we're really obsessed with. And to do that, we've got to figure out the business model and we've got to figure out the solution. And it's going to be manual. We're going to do things that aren't scalable at first. And so, i.e., it's not going to be profitable for it's like, or it might be profitable, but it's not going to get to scale quickly. I would rather like slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Like I'd rather spend the next year really understanding the problem, really onboarding our first few customers and getting it right. Like really, I don't know. There's so much startup obsession with get to 10x from the beginning to the end. But I've seen so many examples of the opposite where I've worked with startups that were killing it and it found product market fit and it was epic. And I've done this. So there's one out of South Carolina that was amazing. They like hacked Facebook marketing for nonprofits. It was so cool. They were working with the largest nonprofits in the world and some of the work they were doing had broken Facebook for a day. Like they were just killing it. They were growing so fast and amazing. And then I found out like in one of the last meetings with the client, they were telling a story to their team before we trained the team on the new messaging and positioning to help set them up for success in the future. And they were like, oh yeah, this all really started when we tried to build like a better email marketing product for nonprofits 7 years ago. And then it completely failed. And then we had to fire everyone. And then but we knew that there was a real problem to be solved. So we just kept solving it and digging deeper. And they consulted for a while. Get it? Like there's that consulting phase where they went out in the market and really tried to understand it better. Then they realized Facebook marketing was the opportunity. And I feel like that is so similar to our journey with working with mission-driven organizations. I've been in this space for 10 years. I've been obsessed with how to use business as a force for good, what works, what doesn't. Business models key, and then your go-to-market strategy is key. But I know the longer I keep control, and by building this in a way that like really aligns with their values and is done thoughtfully, if you're going to say that you're a mission-driven company, you really have to think carefully about how do we price this? How do we price it sustainably? But then also, we are competing against Harry and David and Amazon. Like we're competing in an
Those pairs
intense.
are really good.
They're really
They're
good.
really good. Yes, if you can't match those pairs, you just get out. That's all I can say. Those
I
pairs,
know.
they're
I know. It's a
delicious.
lot of pressure.
So,
But
should
so
try
we're
Harry
going
and
to
David
try to
pairs.
balance it all. I think where I've heard it work is I have heard of examples. There was a really great panel recently at a local conference on going from services to startup, like to software. And there was one person who put someone else in charge of the consultancy. So I am trying to think about that. Like, how do I balance my attention to the consultancy versus the gifting company? But
There's a local company, their competitors are technically, but there's so many of those. I don't think they'd be embarrassed for me to say that. Their name is Lithios. They're local here. Deshaun is their founder. He's an amazing human. He started his own spinoff, technology related, and he did exactly what you're talking about. He has another guy, Kyle, who I'm friends with, who runs Lithios, and he is running his spinoff called Coworks. And he still owns both you're talking about,
sure.
but he does not run Lithios anymore. Kyle does. And that's worked really well for him, I believe. I obviously don't know the insides of it, but they're both around for many years. So I'm going to go with yay. But he's following that same sort of thing. So right now, practically speaking for you, are you 80-20 Noel and Company, or are you 50-50? Where are you in your journey?
70-30 right now, but then
Okay.
it'll definitely it might flip to 60-40 come November, December. But
And
we're
is
going
that-
to see. And I'm going to try to hire so it can be like 50-50.
Is that purely a revenue decision? I need to make X dollars, and once I make that, however I make that, then I can devote more time to business too. How does that work for you?
I do think, revenue and profit margin is going to matter a lot here. Like, where can we find the right talent to run Noel & Co? Or can we find the right talent and strategy to help Better Made Easy run in a much more powerful way? Because to be quite honest, I'm really great at marketing. Am I the best at managing gift fulfillment? Absolutely not.
Big Pixel builds world-class custom software and amazing apps. Our team of pros puts passion into every one of our projects. Our design-infused development leans heavily on delivering a great experience for our clients and their clients. From startups to enterprises, we can help craft your ideas into real-world products that help your business do better business.
Is there a potential then that Better Made Easy is growing, doing well, and you decide to hire, not to, like I was saying, Deshaun did with Lithios, he hired someone to take over Lithios and he went the other. You could just continue to run Noel and Company and hire someone to run Better Made Easy.
I've wondered that.
Would that make
So
you
we will
sad, or
see.
would you be okay with that?
I think I'd be okay with that because
Okay.
it's interesting. Like, one of the things I've been called out on is advisors have always been, are you focused enough? But the interesting thing is I've ever worked on, whether it's been group programs or consulting, it's all been in the marketing sphere. And so even gifting feels so similar to it. We've been treating Better Made Easy so far as a client of Noel & Co.
Okay.
I do know that like fulfillment and ops needs to come off my plate as soon as it can with Better
Sure.
Made Easy. And if that's our core competency, like it actually does make sense that the real vision is, do I run Better Made Easy from like a CEO strategy, marketing standpoint, and then someone else takes over and sits in the ops seat? I think that's a win.
But based on what you were saying earlier, doesn't Better Made Easy have a consulting side, or no?
In some ways, it does feel like the question is there an agency side to the branding of the gifting? And I think there is.
Yeah,
which
I mean,
is
I could
nice.
totally see a company like mine saying, I don't want to buy Famous Amos cookies because that's what Gary likes. You can't see him rolling his eyes, but that is good stuff. Anyway, anytime I could dig Gary is a good day, but I don't want to do the normal thing, right? But
Right.
I don't have time as a CEO. I don't want to pass off gifting to somebody else, right? That seems weird. So I could see working in a consulting way. Now, depending on, of course, how expensive that is. I can't spend $1,000 talking to you before I can even buy a gift.
No.
That would annoy me. So it's like, I'd rather buy Famous Amos cookies, but it's a weird thing. But I could see a consulting side to that. You're like, hey, I got this. You just hand this to me. We're just going to add $5. I'm making this up on top of every gift you buy to pay for me. But I'm going to make sure you have amazing gifts.
100%. And then can we it's almost a stitch fix model. As we get more sophisticated, can we start serving up those gift recommendations? Or is it truly productized where it's like, these are the 5, this is the cool one thing we might tax is, this is a really cool collab, bankers, insurance companies, service providers of this year. Do you want to enter anyone out?
But they all get
And
the
it's
same gift.
They won't, but their clients will.
Mm.
And then the next year we need to come up back with a new one. That's the question. Maybe we'll see. Or is it truly that we brand you and then once that happens, we can be gifting as a service?
So many fun things, but I could see.
DVDs.
Yeah, sure. I love it.
I would move as fast as we figure that out. Because I do want to make sure that the more we can avoid, there's something to be said about like limiting inventory risk. And if we can get bigger orders, that's why merch is preferred volume. It's an easier business model.
But then you have to farm all that out and you don't make any money.
Yeah, I know.
That's no
Yeah.
fun.
So we'll see.
Man, that's tricky, but that is fun though. At least you're dealing with fun stuff. This is just internal thing, but I've always wanted to give cool anniversary gifts. Do you know who Blizzard is? They're a gaming company.
I've
They've
heard
been
of them.
around for, I think, almost 30 years. They made games like Warcraft and StarCraft and all that. They're a big company. They're now owned by Activision, but anyway, or Microsoft now. Anywho, they're famous for their internal gifts. At 5 years, you get a sword. Because again, think Warcraft. You get a sword, and it's a different sword for every year. And then at 10 years, you get a shield that matches, and they connect together. Now, I don't want to give everybody a sword at my company. I want something that cool, right? I'll tell you, I got a cool gift over here.
You did give Carl a 60-pound glass square.
I did. We made a pixel. It was a cube of glass, and it was orange on the back, so the whole thing looked orange, and it had his stuff on it. And it was okay. It was good. It was good, but it wasn't the sword cool.
It wasn't.
No.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to beat.
Well, you were talking about weapons. I figured it could be a weapon at that point.
It could be that is
heavy.
It is so
and
heavy.
sharp.
It is so heavy. It's a solid piece. It's a 4x4 cube of glass. I mean, it is like, what, 8 pounds? It's crazy. I did get an amazing gift. So we gave money. We support the symphony and the North Carolina Symphony.
Oh, yeah.
And they gave gifts to thank their people. And they gave me a violin. It's right here. I have a violin that has a little plaque on it, says thank you on it. I went nuts. And I'm like, that's what I want my gift to do. Because seriously, I pulled it out and I had to YouTube. This is a true story. I have no idea how violins work. So I wanted to play one note because I can't play. So I pull out the bow. It comes with the bow. And I pull up the little thing. I have a video of this. And I went, and it does nothing. And I'm like, I don't understand. I should be able to play a note, right? I don't have to know what I'm doing. Apparently you do. You have to smear the bow with rosin. I didn't know this. There's rosin in the case. So I'm just like, all right, I'm YouTubing all of this. I'm rosin this bow. It's literally right here. It's right off the camera. And then I finally got my note. It was horrible, right? But I was so elated. And that's what I want a gift to do, right?
Yeah.
That someone opens it and they just light up. And that was cool. So anyway, sorry.
Dodo
Tangent.
Ma.
Oh yeah.
Get out. No.
Yeah. Delightful, personalized in some way, thoughtful.
Now that's incredibly over the top, obviously. I can't imagine what that costs.
I was going to say, so I'm expecting a grand piano now for Christmas bonus.
For Christmas, you get a grand piano. I'm going to get you one of those little mouth harmonicas. That's what it is.
They're called kazoos.
So this is so unrelated to anything. So I came to my office. I told everybody about this. I came to my office, drive up, walk in, and there is this lady, nice older lady. I don't know how old, but she was sitting. I don't know if she was homeless. I don't know anything about this lady, but she was sitting right outside of my office on the curb playing the harmonica. I'm in Wake Forest. This isn't New York City where people have buskers, right? It was so random. But this lady, she's just playing the harmonica to herself. She wasn't playing it loudly. We bring up harmonica, so it comes to mind. Anyway, how much time are we at? This will be edited out. Sorry, this won't be bad. I just don't want to go over and take your time. Gary, did you have any questions? I've been so rude, but I'm always rude.
No, you ask me if I have questions, like right after you ask the question that was in my head. So
that's my goal. It's all planned.
I literally was going to ask how the marketing and branding, like from the marketing company to the gifting company works. And she's explaining it. You're asking questions. So I'm just sitting here listening.
I mean, it is interesting because I think there's a lot of people in your shoes that that have built at least moderately successful consultancy of some sort. It's enough to support themselves, and they have a choice. I get asked all the time, what is my side gig? Because almost everyone in my position who owns a technical firm, they build an app. And then that becomes because they get tired of clients and whatever. I have zero interest in doing that. So I enjoy working with clients. But they always ask, what is your app? Obviously you have one. I don't. This is what I do. Because I invested just like mentally, I was like, this is what I love to do. Is the agency consulting thing. This is what I love to do. So this is what we do. And we invest in that. But a lot of people take that side road. So those people who have that idea, like you're doing, it's like you get your agencies to the point where it's paying you, you're doing well, and you have a choice. You have a fork. Do you continue and it becomes a bigger company? You start having 5, 10, 20 employees, more. Or do you say, no, this is fine. It pays the bills, but whatevs. I want to do something else. And many go your route, right? Let's do something else. Ironically, I think you're the first person I've seen who built something else and might go back to the original thing.
It'll all depend. I'm leaving space for it because when I started it, I was like, oh, I could totally obsessively focus on gifting all day, every day, if and when it makes sense. It's just, will that make sense anytime, like in the next year or two? Probably not. I don't think, unless for some reason we managed to go corporate viral. But I don't know. I've always seen it's 10 years to overnight success. So like I'm 6 years into a consultancy. I love doing this work and I do want to productize and I do want Better Made Easy to eventually be scalable. So it's also in my mind, can I get the consultancy to where it's like able to be managed by someone else? It's a limited use of my time, but it can still create like solid employment for people, and that Better Made Easy becomes the main focus until it's grown and becomes scalable. Or is it just going to be, I don't know,
a hobby?
Yeah.
And that's always the other side of it, right?
Anymore. I think it'll be more than that. That's just it. Like, I want to build a scalable company. There's something to be said about being a marketer. It's like, you're so good at it, why not do it?
Sure.
So the key question is, can we get it scalable enough to when it makes sense for me to step away from Noel & Co? And I think we will. It's just, in the meantime, I'm throwing both.
A Noel & Co without Noel?
Yeah, we'll see.
Nice. All right, Gary, ask our famous question.
It has come time. So you have worked with startups, and this is your second startup that you're actually working in. So what would your top 3 pieces of advice be for any new startup or entrepreneur?
Yes. Okay. Let's do this. Number 1, pace yourself and really take time to find product market fit. I know I've already said this a few times. I'm like, it's okay to have 10 years to overnight success. There's something to be said about that, unless your VC funding and timing is of essence. But I do think if we, like, by taking time to go your own pace to figure out like the unique pain points you can solve and how you're really going to differentiate, I think that's game changing. And I do think it's worth taking the time to be intentional. That's number 1. And then number 2, find community. Entrepreneurship is a lonely road at times, but if you can find fellow founders that you can lean on throughout it, like it's life-changing. Some of my best friends are founders, and right now I'm closest with a lot of them that have young kids like I do. And so it's really helpful to talk through all of those challenges together. Actually, I really need to go grab Sean and I plan to have coffee to talk about all of these questions in the air. Do you do 2 things at once? Can I put someone in charge of the other thing to be able to manage it all? That's going to be key, right? Be part of a community. Like, you get to define what that means, but lean into it. And then the last thing is know when to get help too. Everything is simple, but it's not easy. And in building a consultancy, like, I know that I can pull off doing a lot of things myself, But as I look to Better Made Easy, I think one of the reasons why I'm making space to even manage two companies is, well, if I plan on hiring really awesome people who like really get this similar mission of helping drive sustainable growth that creates amazing jobs and empowers small businesses, like it's going to take a team. Like there's no way I can achieve this by myself. And so if the weight of two companies isn't on my shoulders alone, I think that's going to be the key to success. And so that part of my entrepreneurial journey, I'm like really excited about as I lean into finding the right partners for this and finding and developing the talent that we need to bring this all to scale.
Sustainable business. I hear that word a lot, and I don't know what it means, but I'm going to, well, first just define it. And then I have a question.
Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with that question. And I even meant to say, yes, what do we mean by sustainable or sustainability focused? And I've studied that. So long story short, if you've never heard of what a B Corp is, the B stands for benefit. So I've been part of this movement of B Corps. So these are business leaders obsessed with how to use business as a force for good. And there's different ways of defining what sustainability is. So in the B Corp movement, the way they define it is instead of maximizing shareholder value, so just true profit and loss, maximizing profit for shareholders, the B Corp movement's about stakeholder. So how do you optimize your business for employees and the environment and the community and in terms of your governance? So you really are accountable to thinking about your business holistically. So I think that's a really helpful framework. And then the way we've applied that to gifting is we've defined it in three ways. So number one, and I've hinted at this, but but I haven't said it. The most sustainable gift in our Better Made Easy's like definition is one that someone wants. So there's a reason that we're so obsessed with personalization and customization and trying to think through what is the gift assortment that people actually want. Is it a bunch of merch or is it maybe one piece of merch and then some delightful food that if they're not going to eat, they'll at least forgive easily? Because that matters, right? We don't need to create more waste. The number two is the materials that we use. So we have obsessed about the different materials that we use for our boxes. I've gone down deep rabbit holes on should it be recyclable or compostable? Fun fact, recyclable is the most dependable because it all depends on where you live and whether you have a commercial composting facility. And FYI, like my nightmare is like being accused of greenwashing because like we were really trying to work against that.
That's an interesting nightmare, but all right.
Like, oh my gosh, it's
cardboard
probably
credits.
not. And then even when we send like gift boxes, we have a cute little sticker that says, please recycle me. Because at the end of the day, even if it's ideally recycled and recyclable, if you don't put it in recycling, it doesn't really matter if it was recyclable. So we're working on that part. And then the last but not least is like sustainable in how we purchase. So are we working with local businesses? Are we working with mission-driven businesses? Are we supporting like uplifting everyone by uplifting businesses that are operating in a really powerful way? And so it's like really neat to be able to like start measuring how much money have we spent with B Corps and how much money have we spent with local businesses? And I can't wait to see those numbers grow because as a consultancy, you have to pay a fee to work with us. Whereas gifting, we actually get to pay you. And if you've built the right product and we're able to package it in a unique way, like we just get to drive a growth and we make the margins on top of that, right? Like it's the win. And it's a way to achieve that broader vision. I'm obsessed with how do we grow other companies, right? Especially ones that are doing good for the world. Being able to purchase wholesale from them is a powerful way. And to be able to better market for them and help them tell their stories, right? Like it's what gets me up in the morning.
It's not just a buzzword.
Not to her. To some
Honest.
people, it definitely is.
Right.
So here's what and this is my cynical hat. I'm going to put my little cynical hat on here for a second.
Oh, please do.
Find that sustainable and generosity / giving, they're not the same. They don't mean the same, but they often fall in the same bucket. Meaning there's a lot of companies who say they want to be generous, but then when you actually find out that they give 1% of a percent, you know what I'm saying? And that's, and it's almost the whitewashing, greenwashing. I don't know what the sustainability version of washing is, but we're washing something where most companies say they're generous or they want to be generous or whatever. And if you do the math, They don't give hardly at all. And that's fine. That's a choice. I'm not saying everybody has to be generous. Like, you had to choose, and I'm not saying you've had to do this, but if you're a sustainable company, and that means taking good care of your employees, how many CEOs will take less money to give to their employees? It's very small. I know the answer to that. It's very small. But that's what that means. To me, it's like sustainability is either put up or shut up. Either you're going to take care of your employees. Like, I know some good people who I know their businesses, but I also know that they complain about paying their people more than $12 an hour. You know what I'm saying? It's like, these are good people who say that they believe this, they do that, whatever. But when it comes down to it, they still want to pay their people as little as they possibly can get away with. I knew one guy who, this really bothered me, but I knew he was taking millions out of the company, and I knew his warehouse had no air conditioning. Like, I knew these two things were true. And I was like, dude, that's not okay. And that's what I mean. It's like, how much of this is lip service? And this is me a bit on soapbox, and I'm sorry. But I hear, and I know it's true for you. I can feel that passion coming.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many people who use those words, and that means they get away with things. And I don't know. There's not even a question there. I think I just ranted. I'm sorry.
No. There's definitely a movie I highly recommend you check out. It's called Uncharitable, but it's based on the Dan Pallotta book or TED Talk that went pretty viral a while ago about charity versus the theory of social change and the role of nonprofits in that. Because as a B Corp, one of the ways we do that is we give away 5% of profits. But even that can be manipulated. I've been in this world for 10 years, and you can manipulate anything.
Yep.
Stressful. And I think my theory of change is also business model really matters. That's also why I'm not like, grow, baby, grow. I'm like, we're going to take a few years. We will consult and we will figure out this business model first to make sure the numbers are there to be able to pay people. Or are we going to, and I really want to drive growth to small businesses, but are we going to need the white label to be able to make the profit margin we need to pay our people better? Like, these are all questions like we have to ask, right? Like, is sustainable growth for our entity as well? These are the things I think, what really is driving sustainable growth if we don't pay our people well? And so I want to take the time needed to answer those questions, because you're right. I've worked with mission-driven companies where I've gotten paid less, and then it's been harder to pay my people because of how much we've done.
It rolls
for the
downhill,
mission
right?
organization we serve. Yeah. And is that right? And if it's someone early in their career and they got really great exposure and we can get them back and up,
I hate
okay,
that word.
fine.
Exposure.
That's the worst word.
I know, but you still like to pay great people, really good work. So
we could have a whole nother podcast on this, I'm pretty sure.
If people want to learn more about your businesses, how could they reach out? Where could they find you?
Yes. So for our gifting business, you can check out www.bettermadeeasy.com. Better Made Easy, 3 words. And then Noel & Co., it's www.noelandco.io, input output, which is very nerdy and weird.
Did you not
We'll
get
put
the
the links in the
.co?
show notes,
That
too.
just
No.
Oh, I mean, I don't even own my own
I know.
.com, so I can't even
I was
say
going
it.
to say, coming from the .net guy.
Yeah, I have
Missed
tried
opportunity
for
there to
11
like
years
co.co.
to get that. It's just a
I
squatter.
let it go.
No, what would it even be? No and .co? That's horrible. Like, it doesn't
Well,
work.
I know. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. So I was just like, we're going to just signal the .io. Like, it's very techy.
Hi, I'm Christy Pronto, Content Marketing Director here at Big Pixel. Thank you for listening to this episode of the BizDev Podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email, hello@thebigpixel.net. The BizDev Podcast is produced and presented by Big Pixel. See you next week. Until then, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Threads, YouTube, and LinkedIn.